There we go. Let's see, are we live? Okay, great. Hello and welcome to Flying High with Flutter. I'm your host, Allenwyma, and today we have a special guest back. So I believe you're our first returning guest. It's Alexandre Minette. He's a developer with a very fantastic, I think, looking and useful budgeting app. So I believe our last episode was about budgeting with Flutter. I can't remember the exact name, but I believe that's right. So we don't really need to go too much into an introduction about yourself. I think we can just skip right to the meat, right? So the reason that I brought you back is because I think that all the automation that you've done for your app is really fascinating, right? So of course, we're going to talk first about the automated testing because I don't really know how it is in Flutter, but I usually come from like Ruby and Elixir, same as you, right? And in those languages, we do a lot of testing. Testing is really, really important. But I think in Flutter, testing is a little bit more secondary than anything else. I mean, the testing framework I think is still pretty good. Like, so if we talk about XUnit, I think it's on the same level to a certain extent. Like, you don't have to bring in something else. You can just use the default for the most part. But I'd like to hear more about how you test because people have been asking me how to test, right? Do you actually test your models with unit testing? Do you do like full like end-to-end testing? Maybe you can just go ahead and start.
Yep. Yeah, on my case, I also kind of the same background. I come from a Ruby background where testing is kind of central to the culture of programming there, and I wanted to replicate that in Flutter. Flutter doesn't have as much, I think, testing culture as in Ruby, especially like compared to RSpec, which is for me the gold standard of the industry, which is absolutely the best you can do. But Flutter does have kind of a nice kind of built-in library for doing testing as like automated testing and like unit testing. So it can do a kind of wide range of different kind of tests. I wanted to have my app very well tested because budgeting is very important to have to be bug free. There's a lot of bugs which can happen, like there's floating bugs, for example, where you just divide and then it's not rounded properly, and then you have bugs. There's layout issues. There's like just even like summary of all the budgeting you have. Everything needs to be pretty perfect. You don't want to update your budgeting app and have all the budget change for some reason. So all of this is very important to me. I'm also using this test to upgrade Flutter painlessly. I just upgrade Flutter, and if all the tests are running, I'm pretty sure that everything's working properly. Yeah. Um, I think we can go straight to the meat of it and just show off all the testing stuff. Oh, So this is all my code, yeah, for the budgeting app. I've also been running all the tests just before the show to make sure everything's running properly, but everything runs properly. These tests I have with Flutter tests are also running on GitHub. This is something I've not mentioned last time, but I have some GitHub workflow which are running the tests here. So as soon as I do git commit and git push, all the tests are running directly on GitHub. This is also pretty useful to discover like bugs where some tests might be running properly locally and then it just doesn't run on some automated platform. Yeah. So all the tests are here. I have a good collection of any kind of test you can think of. So I have database tests. We can see here, for example. So here, for example, I calculate, this is kind of what you think about budgeting. So calculating the balance, which is the most like stereotypical test you can think of in a budgeting app. Yeah. But I also have like Goldens, where the widgets are rendered and then it's being compared to the default image. and this is especially useful on like Flutter upgrades or similar stuff to make sure everything is being rendered properly. I have keyboard tests because the budgeting app has also a custom keyboard to handle zeros. I'm gonna run the app in parallel, so whenever I want to talk about something, I can show it. The app has some custom keyboard, yeah. So whenever you're using like the expense feature and you just tap, you have multiple digits, and then you have spaces between them, and all the text selection is done manually, yeah, because there's nothing by default in Flutter to handle this. So all of this needs to be tested to make sure that if I click in the middle, if I tap, sorry, in the middle of a very long digit, like number with some space in the middle, and I delete one in the middle, that doesn't delete the space, that deletes the number just after, yeah. So all of this is tested, yeah. I have a pretty good coverage. I have, I think, about 70% coverage on the app, yeah. And the tests are running in like 3 minutes. I actually it says here 2 minutes per day. So that's kind of okay, good enough to be usable. Yeah.
To run your test coverage, is that something that you can get default out of the Flutter SDK?
Yeah, I'm using the default testing framework. I'm also using another library for the Goldens because the default Golden library doesn't handle custom fonts, or at least it wasn't in the past when I've started to build my tests there. I'm also using some SQLite library to handle SQLite on the testing part, because on the devices using the default SQLite, but on your computer you need to use the system SQLite. So you need a library to handle the SQLite part for the tester. So this is what I'm using, and I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. I think anything else is using the built-in test framework. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I missed this, but do you say you actually run? I mean, because it looks like you're testing like everything, right? So you do have some unit
Yeah.
testing. You also have some actual testing where you're hitting like a keyboard, right, to test a custom keyboard that you made.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
You wanted to talk about the widgets ones. So
Like widget
actually, I have a
testing is
good
something
example.
that a lot of people struggle with. Even I struggle with like how to do widget testing. To me, unit testing is pretty straightforward, but I think widget testing, like, how to get, should I start adding keys to elements if I want to get to them, just so I can test them? Like, that's a kind of a question that I wonder about sometimes because I want to get to certain things and I don't know if I should, just add a key to make it easy or not.
Yeah, usually I add a key as a last resort. There's been a few times where I need to add a key, but usually, so this is, for example, this test is, for example, the main the like one of the biggest like widget tests. So this is a transaction add test. So what I'm doing in this test is I'm opening a transaction, and I'm filling up all the details, and I create it. Yeah. So here you need to have a lot of clicks there, clicking on the sum to handle the money, then clicking on the categories, then clicking on the dates, and then clicking submit at the end to make sure all the form is done. It's like basically a form test. So how I do it generally is I use find by type, because all the widgets are custom in the app. So I also have a currency input, a date input, and a category input, and so all these inputs are different types in the code. So this is pretty useful as a kind of filter to tap directly on it. I can find the currency input, tap here, and type 400 in it. So it means that it's going to put 400 on top. And then I can verify that the form is valid, yeah. I think around, yeah, not this one, but Yeah, I think this one validates as well. Yeah. So this is the edit, for example, an edit test. So say you just open a transaction, you just tap, you just change the fields you want, and it works straight away. I also found that widget testing needs to be pretty needs to have a pretty limited definition. Like when you do main problem when you do widget testing is you want to test everything. For example, in this app on my widgets here. So let's open it and open the screen associated to it here. So this screen I'm testing has a lot of widgets here. It has the currency, the description, the category, but some widgets are also redirecting to another page. You see, for example, here the category, and I don't necessarily want to test all of this. I prefer to test the category widget by itself and then test the expense widget in another way. I think the scope of the widget needs to be kind of defined because usually the main issue with widget testing is you tend to test too much things at once here. You tend to test too much things at once. So like usually what I would do is either I would pre-fill the category I want or I would just mock it. I think there's a few places where I just mock the widget to return directly what I want. Yeah. So this way I can in one file test only the logic of the form and then in another file test the category by itself. Yeah.
And compare these with an image of what it should look like, right?
Yeah, exactly. So here you
Okay,
see all
because
the
somebody just
goldens
asked in the chat, actually, they want to know more about that. And I also mentioned quite interested in that. So I do remember you told me about this, yeah. So maybe you could talk more about how this actually works, because this does remind me of like React. I think React has something where like you render a widget, you render some code and you can compare directly if it renders on text. So now
Yeah.
you can compare which it looks like on the screen versus a picture which was also rendered.
Yeah, so the built-in library for doing Goldens is doing actually this one. So it doesn't run a text, it runs blocks which are squared. This is quite useful, as they say in the documentation, to discard any rendering issue for text. But I found that in practice is pretty hard, like as you can see on the screen now. And maybe for the listeners of the podcast, you can just imagine some blocky squares everywhere. It's kind of difficult to find to make sense of what you see if you don't have proper text here to work with. So usually what I do is I use this golden library. So where is it? Oh. Yeah, golden toolkit is called, yeah. And I have yeah, screen match is golden, yeah. And then what happens is you have a command with Flutter test, yeah. And you have a command called an argument called update goldens, and then the name of the file. And what it does is like it just creates a file and or updates it if needed. But when you run Flutter test, normally it's just gonna crash saying that the image is different. And this actually caught a few bugs on my side as well, where I was just changing the padding somewhere and I didn't know it, or I've done some further upgrade one time, and the further upgrade messed up the padding on the top, like the going on the go back. Like go back tab bar on the top here, it just messed up the padding. So this is pretty useful for this year because even if the form is working, you don't really know how it looks like. So usually what I do, yeah, I do both in the same time. I do both the widget testing and the screenshot generation. Because otherwise, if you have two files doing this, I kind of find that it's doing too much repetition. Yeah, so I find it useful to just do the widget testing. So tap wherever you want, check all the widgets you want, and then do a. So this way you do two things at once, and you don't have to repeat yourself. That's usually what I do. And also in the same time, I checked what's being saved in the database. For example, so after the submit, I just checked that all the parameters in the database are like kind of what I expect, yeah, to make sure that the form is working properly.
Okay, okay. So actually, there is quite a lot of value. You said with this with the Golden's testing, right? It's called Golden Toolkit. You can actually find bugs, and you said you found a bug because it was actually a bug in Flutter that it was that actually caused this problem, or was it actually like you were using a buggy software before and then they fixed the
Yeah,
bug?
I don't think it was a proper bug of Flutter, but I was using it in a buggy way. I was using my bar in a buggy way, and then they fixed it, but it broke the thing on my side. And if I didn't have this, I wouldn't have noticed straight away. Whereas with this, it's just like the widgets what was rendered incorrectly, and so I could see it. On the widgets, on the testing, I also use a fake clock here. So how I've done it is I created a clock in the config file here, which is using the Quiver library. So this helps me mock the current timer. So on the default app here, it's just set to normal clock. But on the testing, I can set it at the beginning to the clock I want, to a fixed clock here. And this way it just removes all the time issues and make sure that when I save the file, for example, and I want the current time, everything works great in the testing part.
That means they never like tick, basically. It's always stuck at this
Yeah,
specific time,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, interesting. The shared preferences that you're mocking over here, so you have a line that's called shared preferences that set mock initial values. Did you write this yourself, or is this something that came with the shared preferences library?
No, it comes with a shared preference. You can just save any key value you want at the beginning of your test here, and it just saves it in the fake local data. What I'm doing here is actually I save the last synchronization date with the server because whenever you create a new transaction, the app wants to save it to the server, so it should like behave accordingly with this value. So this is what I'm using it for. I also add a few data at the beginning. I had some exchange rate and some settings to make sure that the testing behaves properly. This is kind of a more, yeah, one of the like more complicated widget testing I have here. Like the unit ones are usually like a bit more simple. You just use the function, send the parameters you want, and do expect on the other side.
Actually using any Makito within your test too? Because it seems like you're creating a bunch of custom mock objects, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was using so I have a few mock objects here. Usually what I do I was using Mockito in the past, but the problem with the new upgrade of null safety, yeah, in Dart made this Mockito library pretty unusable. So you can still use it, but it's not as good as it was before. What I'm doing nowadays is let me find an example somewhere. I use some fake yeah, I still use the Mockito library in some places, but usually all the classes in my code have some have on the constructor the object I want, which is initialized in the normal code to a proper object. And in the test, what I do is I replace this object with what I want. I makes it very useful to mock the behavior of the class here. Let me find an example somewhere. Oh, so this is no, this is not interesting. Oh, maybe here. No, I don't see it anymore. Sorry, I'm trying to find an example, but yeah, basically the idea is I create a constructor with the right class, and then I extend in the code. Let me see, extend. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, exactly. Here. Yeah. This is a good candidate, I think. So this is a test for adding an account, and in order to add an account, I need, for example, to check here is the navigation is changing after you create the account. That it goes back to the list, or I want to make sure that the data cache is reset. So I have some cache of the data. What you see on the app isn't live on the menu. Yeah, if you go here on the main list, yeah, and everything here isn't live because it would cost too much to run every time. So all the summary of the amount you have on each account, all the amount of transaction, the statistics screens, all of this is cache data and re-rendered whenever you add a transaction or you add an account, or like basically the data is modified. So in the code, yeah, I'm using these mocks to verify that. So for example, I just send it I just send it here as a change notifier mock here. And then I just test that the mock is being called properly. That's what I'm doing here. Another example I can add. Yeah,
So
here for example, sorry,
I was gonna
yeah,
say you're
second.
using provider, right, for your state
Yeah,
management.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, all the
Mm.
state management is done using provider. In the past, I was just using some simple change notifier, but it became kind of unusable pretty quickly. Provider is working like much better, and is handled for this kind of use case, and it's very easy to mock as well. You can just send it in like you can just like make one new one in your test and bind it to the change notifier, and it just works straight away. So that's pretty useful for testing. Yeah.
This is pretty cool, but yeah, okay. Yeah, I also saw you also use VCRs too, right? So maybe you can talk a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
about what the VCR is, because I remember that from Elixir, right? And also I must be everything Ruby, everything else. Maybe you can talk about what it is, why you use it, and how you use it.
Yeah, so for like so this is a test account, for example. What happens is that you usually don't want your external services to tap directly on the live service when you do your testing. So what happens when you do your test is that every request you do externally has two issues. First, it's gonna slow down your testing a lot. Like if your live data, your live service you're calling, your HTTP request takes 2 seconds to do, and you're doing a lot of tests, it can usually take like 20 seconds, like cumulated issues, cumulated time loss. And the second issue is adding flaky tests to your code base, because what happens is that one day maybe one of the 10 services you use, one of them is done for 2 minutes, and that's enough to just throw everything out there. That's enough to just stop your test to work. So yeah. So for example, here I'm using a cassette, yeah, for an external service. So this external service is a service I'm using, like it's a kind of competitor app, yeah, and I'm providing the service to my app users to synchronize the data from the old accounts, basically. Like let's say they want to switch to this app and they had this other app, they can use this service, yeah. So what I'm doing here is I just replace the HTTP request by a file. And this file is just all the data which is usually sent from this service. So this cassette is just a JSON file containing all the data you get back. So all the HTTP headers, all the content, all of this here. Is basically a replacement for an HTTP request. And then in the code, I can just use like a client with VCR adapter, yeah, which is gonna return this anytime it's being called. Yeah. Usually, how I do it is like let me find the client. Usually, how I do it is I add a like a static member to the classes called client, which is in the live live app is created with a real HTTP client, but in the code I can just replace it to a fake client and it just works here. So you're gonna see a lot of this code kind of everywhere in my app. Every time there's an HTTP request, I use a fake client. And then I bind it to what I want. Yeah. That's basically the gist of it. Yeah.
You have to first run the tests, and then it'll actually get a real result for you, right? And then you save it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how it works is that if the file doesn't exist, so it takes the name as a parameter. If the file doesn't exist, it creates it. And if it if it doesn't exist, or it creates it, and if it exists, it just takes the file and return the content as a HTTP request. I'm actually using for VCR. I'm actually using my own fork of VCR, yeah, because the official one isn't null safety yet. And I've done a PR to the guy responsible of it, but he still hasn't merged it. So I'm using my own fork of it right now, but that's the idea.
Is he just too busy to reply back? It sounds like his
Maybe
project's
it's too
not
busy or
abandoned, is it?
something.
Yeah, okay.
No, I don't think it's abandoned, but it's he's kind of too busy. Yeah, so I'm using my own VCR fork, which is updated because the issue is that the official VCR is bound to some pretty old versions of Dio, and so it made me slow down my upgrade by quite a bit. So I had to fork it to do the null safety. So as soon as it's merged, like you can use it with a new shiny Dart, but otherwise you can just use my fork in the meantime. That's the idea.
Something I found a little bit painful recently, like when I had to update to Flutter 2 a while back for a client.
Yeah.
It took me forever. I don't even have null safety yet because still some packages that we're using may be abandoned, I think. But in general, like took forever. And some libraries are using shared dependencies and some are using older ones, some are using newer versions. So I try to find versions that try to satisfy everything. It's really painful, I think, to update your app all at once.
Yeah, I have the same issues. I'm actually not on null safety yet because I still have a few libraries. I've forked the biggest offenders, but like he or even this flush bar. I forked this one as well because even not talking about the new null safety feature. One of the main issues of some older libraries is that they prevent you to upgrade pretty hard, and at some point you just stuck it. Like if it requires a version, like in this case, for example, it required a version too old of Dio, but another library I had was requiring a new one, so it made kind of a conflict, an unsolvable conflict, and I had to do something. So this is the option I took. I just kind of forked the library and made the changes myself. But any project big enough has these issues at some point, and old enough has these issues for sure. That's the main problem.
About I was just listening to a recent podcast episode of Flutter 101, and one of the guys on there, I think he created Alfred, and he was talking about like, as few dependencies as possible are in Alfred, just for that reason, right? You don't want like one package you're dependent upon, which kind of drags everything behind. So it's better just to keep everything you can inside of one package. Otherwise, like, yeah, what we're talking about is that the guy may abandon it, or yeah, he's got different version than everybody else, and that's really the most painful part, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty big problem. In the case of VCR, it's not that big of an issue because the library is pretty small, so it didn't take me too long to upgrade to more modern standards. But yeah, if you depending on some pretty big library, that can be an issue. Yeah, that can be pretty painful and that can drag you down in the future. I really don't know whenever I could migrate to null safety. This will be some pretty big problem on my side, I think. Even talking about the whole code itself, there's a lot of files and a lot of things to change to migrate to null safety. So that's gonna be a big project in itself. Yeah. Uh,
Thing is unsound null safety, right? So I actually haven't heard
yeah,
anybody
yeah.
ever talk about unsound null safety. Everybody's talking about sound null safety whenever they say null safety. So I'm curious if anybody has actually tried to upgrade their app and using unsound null safety.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's what I'm using. So the default, if you're using a new, how it works for new safety is in the pub spec file, yeah, on the top, you have the SDK you can install, and I think 11 is the latest one you can put there before null safety is mandatory. Maybe people are gonna correct me if I'm wrong, but in my memory, that's it. So if you put 2.11.0, you're still fine. But if you put 2.12.0, it's null safety mandatory. And so how it works on 11 is that you have like the unsound null safety, which is basically another way to say how it worked before. So that's what I have now. And then they made some pretty handy tool which has a web browser, opening the web browser and showing all your files, and it applied patches to your code everywhere where it thinks things which should change or not. Yeah, if you have all the packages available for it. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, and then you can add comments, or you can also do it step by step. For example. When I was just running the tool by curiosity, so I haven't migrated anything. But there's a comment somewhere. Where is it? Is it in database? Let me find the right place for it there. They have a comment you can put on your functions that works as a way to say this will be mandatory in null safety. Yeah. Is it thing is get database, or I can't remember now. I forgot everything. But yeah, I should find it again. But yeah, they add so you can also do it step by step. They add comments on your functions. Yeah. So you have like an exclamation mark to say this return should be not nullable. Yeah. And this helps shape the other parts of the code that the migration tool works on. Yeah. That's how it works on.
Yeah, because I'm thinking there must be a way that you could just add null safety but have it unsound if some packages are not quite ready yet. But it seems
Yeah,
like
that's
the
what I'm
Google is,
doing now. Yeah.
yeah. So you do have something so you do have unsound null safety. Because I don't see anything in your code base that makes me feel like it's unsound or like it's null safety, right? Because usually you have to add bangs here and there if it's going to be nullable, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you run it, it does say, or maybe I have it run on here somewhere. When you run it, it just say, yeah, running with unsound null safety. And to run with sound null safety, you need to use dot migrate, I think it's called, the dot migrate tool. and then add 2.12 in the pubspec file to notify that because the newest SDK of Flutter are like using null safety by default. That's how it works there.
That I have to do that someday.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
I think. Go ahead.
yeah. Sorry, second. Yeah, go ahead.
No. If you had something to say, otherwise I was going to say we can start to show off your other automation that you have. I think because
Oh
we went
yeah,
through
no,
quite a bit
we,
of
we
testing.
can we can go ahead and show off your other automated stuff. Yeah. So this is the test. I've put a lot of effort into this, but there's also a lot of kind of automation I've been working on to automate the boring part of the app. So I support a lot of languages. So here I have the local files like French, Spanish, English, Portuguese, Russian, Vietnamese, and there's lots of them, German. And this makes a pain to maintain the Play Store page because every time you change something in the app, even one screen, you have to update the capture for each language, and each language has 5 screenshots or 6, I think. Is it 5 or 6? Maybe 6. And so it's 6 times the number of languages, and you have to update all the descriptions on it. You have to update all the everything. It takes forever to do. So if you're supporting maybe one language, that's fine. But as soon as you start to support multiple languages, that's just too much pain to deal with. So how I've done it is I've automated the whole process. Like everything is automated, like completely from start to finish. So I have some some store title, description, and everything I want for the screenshots. So each screenshot has a title and a description, and I have 3 steps. So first step, I generate the capture like a screenshot of each page I want to have in my store page, yeah. Each screen of the app. Then I have a second step which takes these raw screens or just the screenshot. It's like a phone screenshot, and makes it nicer into what you rarely see on the store page, on the Play Store page. And then the last step is sending all of these to the Play Store with the Play Store API. Because if you do this manually, this also takes forever because you have to go each page by each page and delete one by one the screenshots and then re-upload the other ones, but times the number of languages. Yeah. So I have here a special driver which is called screenshot, which is the interesting part here. So this driver is what's responsible for creating screenshots. So what it does, it downloads like a stub database on the app here. Goes each screen by each screen, taps into the account, takes a screenshot, types into the settings, takes a screenshot, taps into the statistics, takes a screenshot. So this creates a lot of screenshots for each language and also each currency, because I also have currencies associated to languages. I can show you some example of that, of all these screenshots on the first step. So they generated here, yeah. So this is, for example, like a screenshot generated for the profile in German and in Euro. And this is, for example, here the same page but in English. So I'm generating one screenshot in English, one screenshot in German. And you can notice I also change the default bank name. So in German it's called Bankkonto. Can't pronounce this. And in English it's just called bank account. So this is what I'm doing to make it more localized. Yeah. And each language have their own currencies. So for example, for Russian, I'm generating the ruble version of the app, so using ruble as the default currency, but I'm also generating one in euros in case people are browsing the website from European country. Because you have also a significant minority of Russian-speaking people living on the European Union. So they want also to see the page in euro and not in ruble. So this is what I'm doing here. So this is the first step. Yeah, the first step of the capture screen is to generate this. So I'm gonna run it straight away so we can see it in action.
Yeah, so what libraries are you actually using for that? It looks like you're using Flutter driver, which I think is actually part of Flutter itself, or am I wrong?
Yeah, so in the past I was using a package called Screenshots, which was made for this purpose, but the issue is that it's not maintained anymore. So I'm not relying directly on the Flutter driver to do this. So let me open.
Really? So I'm looking at I do see one called Screenshot, but that's not, maybe that's not the same one.
No,
It
it's
says it's got
Screenshots with an S. Yeah, and
screenshots.
Screenshot.
Oh,
Yeah, and this one has been not updated since 2019 or something.
yeah, I see that.
And this was a big issue for me because of this. Yeah.
So did you actually just crack open
uh,
this plugin and then just or crack open this library and then start like seeing how it works and then writing your own? Is that how what you
yeah,
did?
yeah, exactly. So like in the driver, in the screenshot driver, you have where is it? Yeah, I've just replaced basically the screenshot command by this, but like the package. You can in the Flutter driver you can use screenshots here. Even if the Flutter documentation says it might not work properly, actually it works fine in my use case. And then you can just write the file directly. So you don't need to use an external library to generate screenshots. You can just use the default Flutter driver to do this. So I'm going to run it as a demo. Yeah, too bad there's not a way to put this directly, so I don't I can click. But yeah, so what it does at the beginning, yeah, so it boots the emulator. I specifically chosen this pixel because the size is all right for the screenshot. I'm not using the same device as I'm debugging normally because this one looks better on the screenshots. Yeah, so that's why I'm using it. And at the beginning, when the app boots, it just downloads a database, like a stub database, and this database is used for the screenshots. Then there's a lot of like small commands, like setting up the time, for example, because this database isn't updated. I also need to set up the current time so that the statistics screen look okay, even if it's in 2019. But that's it, yeah. So it's gonna start soon. Yeah. So the app just boots, yeah. Yeah, so that's what it does, yeah. Instead of the clock, it disables the animations, the flare animations, because I'm using flare as well. Is that maybe that's a demo effect? Is that why is that not working? That's kind of a demo effect. It didn't manage to download the database. Yeah, I'm disabling flare because flare is what I'm using for the animation, and obviously you don't want any animation to show up on your screenshot because the screenshot might look weird depending on the time you have done the screenshot. Also, Flare, we could do another subject on this as well, small subject, but Flare is an amazing piece of technology as well. And then, so I'm downloading the database, and then I'm clicking up on each screen step by step, waiting between each screen, and taking the screenshot and saving the file every time. And I'm doing this for each local and each currency, and all these local and currency are in the config file of the project. Yeah, it's working now. Yeah, it was a demo effect. So this is the app in French, for example, and it's gonna wait a little bit at the beginning to make sure everything is set up, take a screenshot, and then move on. Oh, is that working? Yeah, exactly. So now it's switching to English. It's going to the transaction. It's saving the file. You can see save, test, capture, transaction, English, like pipe euro. I'm using the pipe as a delimiter for the currency in the file name. Then it does the same thing in Russian. It takes about, so we're not gonna run everything because it's very slow, but it takes about like 15 to 20 minutes to generate all the screenshots. So he's Vietnamese, and then it's back to German. So it does all the different captures here.
Have a CI that runs all this, or you just kind of set this in the morning and then go get your coffee and come back and then submit to the App Store, or how do you usually do this?
No, I don't. I'm not using any remote stuff for this. I'm doing it myself because, like, usually the screens they don't change every release. Because you have also a lot of things they cannot see in your app, or they can see but they are not showing up on the Play Store page as well. So I'm only doing this when I have significant changes on the interface, and so this is usually done every month or so when I have like a lot of changes in the interface. And yeah, I've not seen the need to fully automate this yet. It's good as it is now. It takes 20 minutes, and I don't need to run it every day. So that's kind of okay, I think. That's a good compromise for me. And also,
That's how I work on. We never actually update the screenshots ever.
yeah. Maybe I'm kind of like uncommon in the apps because normally people they don't bother to set up something like this. Also, I don't know if people noticed for people who are seeing this live, but there's the currency changing on the bottom every time. Yeah. So on the bottom of the app, the current currency is where you tap to get the account. So every time you change the currency, it's changing this as well. So all of this, I'm doing it for. So in the config file, there's all these supported languages. So this I can also add a new language if I want here. And then for each language, there's Euro by default. Yeah. So I've put a default, so I don't need to put it again. And then I also have additional screenshots to do if I want to. So I can generate English and rubles, Russian and rubles, or I can have like some odd combination here if I want to. So the driver reads this and loops through all of them. Yeah. That's why it works here. We can also have a look at the code of the driver. So you have two parts on the driver. You have the test part, which is not running. So how it works in Flutter is that it's not running in the main, in the same place as the other file is running. So this file just runs on your computer. The screenshot underscore test.dat runs on your computer, and the screenshot.dat runs on the device itself. So you need a communication channel between the two, because you're not on the same place here. it looks kind of a similar code, but it's not doing the same way. So you have a communication message with Flutter driver extension, and you receive messages from the test, which is why it's called that's why it's called a driver in the Flutter language, is because it's actually kind of a like Selenium kind of driver. That's the way it works here. So you send messages. So for example, here I request data back to accounts to the app, and the app sees, oh, I need to go back to account, and then I push the current navigation to the accounts page. So it means I'm back to the accounts. So this is for all of this here. So this is the demo DB I download at the beginning. And there's a lot of like small messages here to communicate between both here. And here I have a fixed clock as well. I'm using the fixed clock of 2019, so at the statistics screen, I don't know if it's going to the statistics yet, not yet, but to the statistics screen to look as good, even if it's not like a few years later and you want the same page to show up here.
Why did you choose that specific date and time?
Because I've made this database at that time, and so I don't want to ever update the test database because it's just not very useful work. This test database has a lot of transactions from 2019 when I created it, and I want all the screens to look the same, even if it's not the same date anymore. At some point, I realized that the months were not looking the same when you look at both the accounts page and the statistic page. And so I've changed the current time to the time I've created the database, so everything looks still the same as it was before. And also here is a piece of code I'm using to every time you change the language. I don't know if you've seen here, like it's like I talked about last time. So for example, in English it's called bank account. What language is this? Portuguese. It's called conta bancária. And you want your user to see this, you want them to see something which looks familiar even on the account names. Yeah. So I have a bunch of hard-coded raw query, yeah, we just change the name on the account here. So these IDs are the database IDs. These random IDs are just the database IDs I have in my fake database.
That's what it looks like to me because they're all hard-coded.
Yeah, it's hard-coded because it's a demo database, so that's kind of hard-coded. And also I disable the sync service here because my synchronized service to synchronize the transactions and everything has some annoying side effect, because on the top it has a small loader every time something changes, to synchronize everything. So I don't want this to show up on the screenshot. So I just disable the synchronized service.
Sense. Okay, this is pretty cool. So we went through your automated testing. We went through your how you create the screenshots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to ask for more things. I'm sure you have even more, but I think we're approaching the end of our time, to be honest.
Already. Yeah, sorry. Because yeah. So I'm gonna do it very quick. Yeah. So this is the first step. Yeah, and the second step is taking this and transforming it into something which looks like where is it? My tool. Yeah, into like this. So this is something like that you see on the Play Store. How it works is like, it takes the screenshot generated just before and creates put it into an HTML page and takes a screenshot of this page with Puppeteer. So this is on Node.js. So if you see each screenshot has an HTML page representing everything I wanted, and it has the screen.png that here I replace. And this is creating something like this. So you have a profile in German, profile in English, with every time you have the proper screen in the middle. Yeah, accounts, homepage in German, homepage in French. And I haven't generated like all of them yet, but we could do it if we needed. So I'm doing this quickly. And then you have the third step, which is uploading the screenshots. And you have a piece of code here, which is using the Google Play Store API and takes this thing we've seen before. No, sorry. The nice one we've seen before, the nice screenshot, and uploads it to the Play Store along with the description, the title, and everything which are in the language file. So this is all the Play Store logic.
Right? I was actually pretty surprised you're not using Dart, right? Or you can actually use Dart directly within Node.
Yeah, you could use Dart, but I'm not sure Google has the Google API made in Dart yet, or has it? That's
Would make
why I've
sense if
used
they did. I'm surprised that they don't.
yeah, well, that's Google, it's a big company, so like one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. So yeah, I think I've used this. I've used Node because the API were pretty convenient. And also for generating the screenshots, I've used Node also because you have Puppeteer, and Puppeteer is very convenient to generate screenshots. And also these tools don't really.
Sorry, what's the name of that library you said?
Puppeteer, it's called Puppeteer.
Property, Property.
No, like here, Puppeteer.
Oh, Puppeteer. Okay.
Yeah. So this tool is what I use. It's like basically Chrome Ambed. So this is what I use to load the HTML page and screenshot every time. So what it does is like it loads a page, screenshot, loads another image, screenshot, and that's what it does. Yeah.
Name driver, basically, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. It's Selenium driver with a nicer API. That's what it is. Yeah. And then after that, these very nice very nice Play Store screenshots are directly uploaded to the Play Store with the API. Yeah, so it just sends everything.
Those things stick out though. So I think we talked a little bit about this last time, which is how you actually put the phone around it. But how do you actually make the things pop out? Oh, that's right. You said you did that. You hard code
So
that,
it's
I
made
think,
in
actually.
CSS. Yeah. I've hard coded, so yeah, like this is something which I might improve in the future. But the HTML which is using this isn't the best HTML in the world. So it's like a bunch of like hard coded divs there, and how it works is like it just use the same image and put it on the top div. Yeah. So when you see a screenshot with the pop-out image, it's actually multiple divs here. There's one div for the pop-out image, one other div for the other pop-out image, and then one div for the bottom. Yeah. And so I've asked a designer for these ones, and then I converted manually to HTML. Yeah. All of this to have an automated version of it because it didn't exist yet.
Okay. Yeah, this is really, really cool. I really love this stuff. And you said that you haven't actually like open sourced or wrote about or documented this out loud for people, right?
No, not really. I've talked about it a bit, but I haven't open sourced it. Because the first issue is some of the things are not are only useful to me, are tailored to my needs. I don't have a way to have templates where people can just create their own kind of templates, and I don't have a way to and handle all the kind of localized files for the Play Store descriptions and this kind of things. It's kind of pretty tailored to my use case. I could open source it, but I'm not sure how useful is that gonna be for other people to use for the projects. That's what I'm thinking.
If you just document how you do certain things and would maybe show, like release some of the code that you wrote, then I think people can probably figure out, how can they make it work for them, right? Like I said, I think how you generate all this is very useful. I haven't seen anybody doing something like this before. So I may steal. I'm sorry, but I may just directly steal some of what you did because it's really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
People generally don't bother to go as far as this.
I mean, to be honest, like, because like I said, all my clients, they all want something like this, and right now we're doing it all by hand. And I think some of them may be interested in, in for us to create something like this. So in the future, they don't have to do anything, right? They could just say, hey, it looks like we did a complete app refresh. Can you please upload new screenshots with this new build? Okay, no problem. It may be worth it. Some people change their apps quite a lot, especially rebranding, right? Rebranding your whole entire app. One of my clients, they actually just rebranded everything, the logo and the app and everything. So it happens, right? Once every once in a while. And
Yeah,
so I
that's pretty
think,
great for that. I also
mm.
I also done this actually because I've done a redesign of some of the pages, especially statistics and home, and I had to redo all the screenshots. And now, when I want to redo all the screenshots, I just launch the Flutter driver to take screenshots. I go grab a coffee 20 minutes after everything's done. I just generate all these ones, which takes about 5 minutes to generate all the nice ones here. Then the upload takes about 5 minutes in itself as well. And like in kind of half an hour, everything is now live again and everything's updated. Yeah, which is amazing if you compare to everything you do manually. It's just you cannot compare the speed. Yeah.
Missing now is actually, I guess you don't have this app on the iOS store, so that would be one other thing to add in, is the iOS one.
Yeah, and that's pretty annoying in itself because iOS has different constraints. First, it has you need a pixel perfect size of the image. You have here. I don't remember the size it accepts, but what you see now is designed for iOS. I had to redesign it once because the one I had before wasn't just working. They don't accept any kind of image like the Play Store do. The Play Store just resizes whatever you give to it, whereas the App Store just says, "I want this size," and that's it. And the second problem is that the Play Store has a lot of APIs, and the App Store doesn't, or doesn't have as much yet. So I might have like a file to open the App Store myself and like automate the browsing to click everywhere. I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but that's what I want to do because it's just too slow. I can't do this manually. It's just too long. There's no way. Like doing this for like 6 or 7 languages. I don't remember how many I have. It's just too much work. It's just too long. So that's
Yeah,
why.
I see that. And I do remember you have to have like one or two like iOS, like iPad screenshots too, which is also a little bit annoying.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I don't support any tablets at the moment because first the interface is not tablet oriented yet. Like for example, on the tablet, I might want to have a bank account in on the left side and then the transaction on the right side. And so this is not supported at the moment. And I think I will support it at the same time as desktop because it's kind of the same issue for desktop. Currently, the app runs on desktop, like runs with like big quotes on runs, but you can't really use it. It's not made for a desktop. For to use an app on a desktop, you need a desktop UI, and this is something you need to adapt as well.
Okay. Really, thank you so much for taking all the time to show everything. And I'm sorry if you won't be able to talk for the rest of the day because you spent a lot of time describing everything that you've done. I really appreciate it. I think people will definitely get some ideas and great advice from this one. So I really appreciate you kind of walking through all the kind of hard work you've done and sharing what you've done. And also, yeah, I mean, your app is super attractive, right? I love it. Is there any shout outs or anything else you want to say before we kind of sign off for the for this episode?
Not really. Please download the app and put some 5 star.
Yeah, don't worry about shameless plugs. We're all about shameless plugs, right? So,
Yeah. Please download the app called Mavio and put some 5 star. I would be happy.
okay. Again, thank you for coming by. We may ask you to come back again. Let's see what happens, right?
Yeah, we
I
can talk on
appreciate
another
it.
subject next time.
Yeah, I think maybe null safety is a good one to talk about because it is a pain, but I think there's a lot of benefits. But just need to get through all this mess. Okay, so again, thank you for coming by, and hopefully see you again soon.
Thanks. See you.